Welcome to Ensemble, service charge management software from Opus. This demonstration focuses on the budget setting functionality. This is accessed by hovering over the budgets on the navigation bar. The best place to start is to manage budget assumptions. This is the area where you set up the values that are used as a constant for calculations within the system. The more constant values that you can isolate, the stronger the system will be. You're also able to start the budget setting process before you are aware of the final values. For example, the RPI figure for 2015 has been set at 3.4%. This was an estimate, but the current value has now been published, which is 3.2%. All that you need to do is enter the value here. Click Update Values, and wherever this constant has been used within the system will now be automatically recalculated using this new value, meaning that there is no need to manually alter any areas. The system also makes you aware of any other areas that may be affected by this update. The constants can also be used to drive further behaviours within a calculation rule. For example, with RPI plus a half uplift, we can see it uses the RPI constant, whatever the value that has been set above within the constants section. And you can set an additional percentage here also. I'll show in the edit screen. So we have the constant and the additional percentage. So wherever the calculation rule is used within the system, the uplift will now be the 3.2% plus the 0.5, which equals 3.7%. When the constants and calculation rules have all been updated, you're ready to move to budget setting. This search screen has been developed to be as user-friendly as possible, allowing the data held within the system to be filtered to the user's requirements. You're able to view previous budgets. The scheme search enables a scheme code, full or part scheme name to be entered. The regional filter is the hierarchy which is set up during implementation. You can have any number of levels. In the demo system you can see we've got an overall company, one region, which filters down into two areas. The workflow. Within this demo we have set up two workflows. This enables the budget to be passed through whoever needs to see it. Again, any number of workflows can be implemented. The status. This shows the different levels within the selected workflow. Again, you can have any number of stages. And then when you've selected your search criteria, click the search to return your results. The area where you should start having a check on would be the Manage screen. Within the Manage screen, you've selected a scheme, and within there are the groups. Now, when we implement Ensemble, we will infer the groupings with the data coming from your housing management system. And as you can see here, we have three groupings, which are sort of geographical. They are a street, a road, and the elms are a block of flats. But the groupings can be made up of whatever is meaningful for your company. Could have one bed, two person flats, terraced houses, ground floor flats, a group of properties that use just one single communal entrance. It's whatever's meaningful to you. And if the system cannot infer the property to be part of one of these groups, it will come through and be highlighted in the unallocated group. And to be moving the property into its proper grouping is as simple as clicking a button. Just as when you're doing general housekeeping throughout the year, if properties move groups or schemes, or if you have a new property that comes online, it's as simple as clicking a button to move it. If it doesn't come through within the housing extract as an inferred into member of one of the groups. So once you have managed your groups, and you've checked that everything is where you believe it should be. If you've made any changes, then click apply changes and all of the groupings would be updated, and then we can move on to setting the budget. And to set the budget, we go into the Edit Budget screen. Now, as we haven't set the budget as yet, there is no data within the grouping columns, but we do have the details of the previous year's budget, previous year's actuals, and if there is a forecast to be used as well, that would be detailed here. And then this will be the coming budget. The first thing to do would be to release this budget so that you can start setting. Now, the first stage is the system has to look at the structure of the groupings within the scheme and see if there have been any major changes since the last budget has been set. Changes that would stop an automatic budget being generated. It's saying here that there are no changes, so it's going to calculate a proposed budget. You can enter comments if you wish. So we'll continue. The system now is going away using all of the uplift rules, the constant setup in the system, and any other apportionments that have been previously set up. It uses all of that information to infer a budget. And so here it has now generated a budget for the different groups. Now, if I select this first expense code, electricity, to show you a bit more functionality. And here we have the Edit Budget Charge screen. We have the expense code, which is greyed out because we don't want to change that because this is what we're working on. The apportionment type. The majority of customers will be able to manage a lot of their apportionments with either equal split, which is every property gets an equal amount, or custom split, which does enable you to split and dice the costs as you would like. But there are a number of others within this demo system. These apportionment types are customer requested, so they will be developed for your needs during implementation. The budget profile, we have two within this system, linear, so it's throughout the year the spend is expected to be the same. High summer, which is very good for grounds maintenance, because that usually has a higher usage within the summer. You could also have, say, gas would excuse me, would be high winter because there's high usage. This comes into its own during monitoring the actual spend against budget during the year, so you can see that the spend is happening as you would expect. Every expense code has a default formula which derives how the uplift will happen, and that is detailed here. You can overrule that default formula either for this budget setting year only or from this point onwards, which you can do within this area here. And then in this section here is where you do the apportionments. As you can see, Warren Farm has 0% of the costs attributed to them. So maybe it's electricity supply, maybe they don't have any communal lighting, so they don't receive any. And so the properties remaining from Borneo Street and the Elms all receive an equal split of the amount between them. So just to show you how this functionality works, let's say that Borneo Street is actually now only going to be receiving 20% of this cost, and maybe Warren Farm now does have lights within that road, so that's 20%. Now within the Elms you can enter 60% for completion, but if you left it blank, the system would calculate that there is 60% left after using the 20 and the 20, so would automatically attribute that to the final grouping. Now in this comment section we have a red asterisk. This means that it is mandatory. The security to do with comments is set up per customer, so you can dictate what you want to be mandatory, so something has to be entered in before the user can move on. This is one of the strengths of Ensemble, in capturing information, taking it out of people's heads and putting it into the system so that it is there for everybody to see and to understand. So within this system you could put something meaningful like Warren Farm Road now has 3 street lights and Borneo Street has 5 less street lights. But I will just write test because we're going through the demonstration, so we'll update that. And it'll go away and it will perform those apportionments. And as you can see, Borneo Street and Warren Farm now have the same amount, and the rest has been sent to the Elms. To get a bit more detail, we can hover over the amounts, and as we can see, it's a custom split, 20%, and the monthly charge per property is 29 pence. That's per property within this group. And Warren Farm do the same. We've got custom split, 20%, and a weekly charge of 7 pence. Now this shows that within the same scheme of Boldmere, we can have different payment frequencies within the groups. You can also have different payment frequencies even within the group, but at some point on the screens there has to be a default view. So this default view that we're seeing at the moment is the annual amount. You can click to display the payment frequency, which would be the default for Borneo Street is monthly, so we're now seeing the monthly charge for all of the costs. The default for Warren Farm is weekly, so we've got the weekly charges, and as well the Elms is weekly, so we can see that. So if we go back to the annual cost, and now really it's a case of the user going through each of the expense codes and monitoring that the apportionment is correct, that they're happy with the way that it is being split out. If a new charge is coming online for this scheme or for a group, it's very easy to just click add new charge. We have the same screen coming up, so the same functionality for you to use. The only difference is that you can select an expense code for it to be, and this is pulling through from your finance system every expense code that has been stated as being service chargeable, so you can pick whichever one you want and put it through. So it's as easy as that to be setting up a new one. Right, and so when that's all set up and monitored well and you're happy with it, this user would then submit it, and then this will be then taking this information and moving it along the workflow to the next person assigned to that. So again, adding in some comments may be useful. And then this is what the next user would see. And so it's just read only, you can't go in and edit anything, and it's a case of either approve or reject. Reject would send it back to the previous user and has mandatory comments attached to it, so they would know what needed to be worked on. Or approve moves it to the next stage, which again put in some meaningful comments as to why they're approving and they're happy with it, and it's now approved. So the only sort of action that you have, which would probably be assigned to a super user, is to unapprove, so that if anything changes, you do have the ability of going back and changing it. Now this that we've been showing has been setting the budget for the shared services, which is sort of like the communal costs or services and costs that everybody within those groups or those schemes would receive. You could have the time when you are including a property within the group or the scheme to attribute and apportion the costs fairly, but that particular unit does not receive the service and so does not want to be charged it. If I move back through and show you that functionality, so here we have, if I click on Borneo Street, let's say here we have electricity supply is the cost code we went into. Here are all of the properties within that group that I selected, their property charge for this particular expense, and then at the end we have this tick column. The columns within this screen can be defined as to your needs. and it's as simple as ticking and unticking a box. So it's saying that if it is ticked, it means that this property is being used to apportion the cost, and if it's ticked, it will receive the cost. If it is unticked, it will be used to apportion it fairly, but it would not receive the charge. And so then we've done some changes, so we would update. And nothing has changed within this section. It's still costing the same. It's just, it will show you on its notification now the effect of that. Because at any point during the budget setting process, you can view a notification. Now this demo system is running on my laptop, so it's having to churn through. On a server this would be very fast. And the system has gone away and it has produced 182 letters for every property within this scheme, because you have a covering letter which details out the monthly charge for this particular tenant, and then we go on to page 2, and this details out all of the charges that this customer receives, and the amounts filter down. Now these all of the letters, the statements, notifications, everything that's set up in the system are customer driven. We can design them to be as near as possible to your current ones, so that the changeover is minimal to your tenants, so that they're still receiving things that look as they have done previously. Or we can help you redesign different ones. And as you see, we'll go through, we've got every customer having, I think so, we've got going through. So they're all there. You can export them into a file to save elsewhere if required. You can even print them as one big batch from here. We also have a print app module which extends the printing functionality. So we've gone through all of the shared services. We would then, when that is done, go on to leasehold. These tabs at the top are usually defined by if they go on a different workflow or if they have a separate management fee. You can have any number of tabs that you would like. It's a way of being able to filter out the management of your budgets and also management of the actual spend. And as you can see here, it's not yet released, it's on a different workflow. We can set up all the other tabs to be released at the same time as the shared services are released, if it's the same group that's doing them. Same, no changes since the last budget detected, so it's going away and it's attempting to calculate its proposed budget. And it comes back with this. But each individual leasehold property would probably have its own individual costs attributed to it. It brings through from the shared services tab the amount that's attributable to that particular property, so that you've got all the information in one place. But the way that you would go in is each individual would have its own budget. So let's say that we are going to edit the insurance, because we're now saying that the insurance for this property for this coming year is going to be £100. We will update that. And so the system has come in. We've now got a budget charge of £100, and it has split it out per, as you can see, the property charge is stating what it's got and further information regarding this. If you wanted to, if I move this screen slightly over to the side, you can see that this property charge has come out of that. But if you believe that actually we don't like numbers with pennies in, so it's actually going to be £9, we can update it here and it will show that you've edited it and we've got the charge going for it. It's just lots of other little bits of functionality, so you can go in and you can tweak it to be budgeting for exactly as you're requiring. So you would go through each of these properties, checking all of their budgeted amounts, and when you're happy with that, go through and submit it, as you have done the shared services, and it will go along the leasehold workflow. And you would do that going all the way through. And the aim really is to get to the end of all of your budget setting, that they are all approved and you are ready to be sending out your notifications to your tenants and your leaseholders. Now really that is the budget setting side of the system all done. All of the screens are developed to be as logical as possible so that the user knows what they're doing and the next bit of functionality that comes up is there in front of them. Within the history section, as you can see, you've got all of the information there as to what has gone on. The user, it would be the name of the user that had been doing the items. So I think that will probably bring the budget setting side to an end, and hopefully it has been of some use to you.